Watch Dogs Legion seemed like an ambitious project when I first saw its preview at E3 last year. However, I still remained quite skeptical. The new recruitment feature in Watch Dogs Legion is probably the most exciting thing about the game. However, it is also one of the things that holds back the game. We're going to be talking about what makes this game fun and where it falls short in this review. Watch Dogs Legion is set in the futuristic city of London, and we managed to play through the entire game for this review. We checked out all of the side activities, side missions, and the main story to give our opinion on this open world hacking game. This is Games Access and welcome to our review of Watch Dogs Legion. If this is your first time on our channel, don't forget to subscribe for more reviews, giveaways, and features. Without further ado, let's get into our review. The game starts off with a mission where you play as a DedSec operative loosely based on James Bond who infiltrates the British Parliament and tries to save it from a Guy Fawkes type attack. The Parliament has been rigged with explosives, and as a member of DedSec, it's your job to foil the plan. After you successfully defuse the bombs, you realize that the terrorist attack was part of a bigger plot with multiple bombs going off across the city. It turns out, you've been framed by a mysterious hacker and terrorist group called Zero Day. Soon after the bombings, you're hunted by Albion, a private military organization hired by the British government.
To save the world. You do know Londoners have died before, The Plague, the Great Fire, the Blitz. It's not much fun. But destruction is always the cure. And it begins today. Zero Day. It's time for a hard reset.
Oh my god.
In the process, your organization DedSec is wiped out by Albion in a purge where your leader Sabine Brandt escapes narrowly. The game then lets you choose one new character from multiple new recruits, and your first task is to regroup with other DedSec members. The group barely has any members left, and it is your job to recruit new operators so that you can build up the organization all over again and solve the Zero Day mystery to clear its name.
Look, I want to help, I do, but joining up with you now verges on suicidal.
Listen, if anyone knows anything about risks, it's me. I lost everything and everyone. But it comes down to this. London is in a death spiral. And if DedSec can't pull it out, trust me, no one can. The city needs a resistance. And it starts with you. What do you say?
Fine, but you owe me.
Excellent! New user registered. Welcome to DedSec.
At this point, the game introduces you to its ambitious new recruiting system where you can literally recruit anyone from the street. As a hacker, you can simply press the L1 button to know more about each citizen and get to know details such as their abilities, gadgets, and weapons proficiency. Not every character has the same abilities, where some might be good with gadgets while others might be faster at hacking. Each character comes with its own advantages and disadvantages, where one character could come with a silence weapon but will lack the skill to hack faster or from a great distance. Similarly, characters that are great at hacking might not be particularly good at hand-to-hand combat or using weapons. No character is similar to each other in terms of passive abilities. However, since the system has been implemented at such a large scale, there were plenty of sacrifices made. For starters, there's no real incentive to recruit several operators, as in our gameplay we completed the game with just 6 operators. However, our biggest complaint from this system was lack of character development for new recruits. It was bound to happen simply due to the sheer scale of the concept. However, it still doesn't excuse the limited character development in this game. I would have preferred a pool of 25 to 50 unique NPCs in the game rather than just generic characters you can recruit from the world. For example, no matter who you try to recruit, the cutscene is going to be more or less the same. New recruits lack any backstories, and their dialogue did not carry any weight for me to care enough about them. Every potential character recruitment process would go something like this. A potential recruit would say, "Are you with DedSec? And if you do this for me, I'll join your organization." And your character would say, "Sure, let me see what we can do."
Are you interested in joining the Resistance? Are you a part of DedSec? Perhaps you could help me.
We'll see. What's the problem?
I needed help and was desperate enough to borrow from Clan Kelly. Now I'm basically their indentured servant until my debt is repaid. Please help me get out from under them.
All right. No time to waste then.
You then would have to do a short side mission, usually involving infiltrating a building and getting what the new recruit needs. Sure, we would get some background information about the character you're about to recruit from our AI partner Bagley, but it wasn't really consequential to the overall narrative. If the game implemented a pool of recruits that were memorable, had great backstories and well-acted cutscenes, I would have cared far more about them than I did. This is because the game implements a permanent death system where if your operator dies, you cannot play with the same character again. You can turn off this feature from the settings of course, however if your character does die in the game, he or she is just injured and instead is unplayable for an hour. The reason why we're complaining about the recruits in this review is simply because their individual stories would have added more to the overall narrative by a whole lot. It would have added more weight to the permadeath system because it would have made me care more about my recruits. Since they can be easily replaced, I didn't really bother recruiting more than I needed to complete the game. Now let's talk about the story. Watch Dogs Legion's narrative is a single player experience full of missions, side quests and other activities to do in the game. However, the overall narrative of the game was quite predictable and did not really match with the tone of the game. The story is about evil organizations like Albion run by Nigel Cass and Clan Kelly led by gang leader Mary Kelly, who use their unmatched power to control the city of London. There's corruption, abuse of power and false flag operations taking place in the city that gets downplayed by the game's playful and goofy tone of presentation. The subject matter of the game is quite serious, and due to the game's tone, I didn't really feel invested in the overall narrative of the game. Sure, there are some nice twists in the end of each main story arc, but none of them were groundbreaking or thought-provoking in my opinion. The story did feel quite generic, but Watch Dogs Legion does make up for it with its gameplay and mechanics. Watch Dogs Legion's strongest suit is probably the gameplay where you need to use a variety of gadgets, weapons and hacking abilities to clear levels and missions. You can use gadgets like invisibility or hack away the environment to set up shock traps for your enemies around a room. There are multiple ways for you to approach a mission where you can either use stealth or go in guns blazing. We mostly used stealth tactics to approach our missions because if you try to go in guns blazing, your enemies would then become bullet sponges like you would see in The Division. You can even climb upon a cargo drone, fly over your enemies and use a bird's eye view to strategize your infiltration. You can simply fly straight to the objective in certain cases without even having fired a single bullet from your gun. The game heavily relies on using gadgets such as the spider bot, which you can use remotely to access hacking points in a building to make your infiltration easier. Using the spider bot can also be fun as many segments involve platforming. If you plan on going guns blazing, we recommend using a character that has a silenced weapon on them, otherwise you will be overwhelmed with enemies and drones that will start hunting you the moment you make any noise. We also recommend equipping the AR invisibility cloak if you plan on going in guns blazing so that you have a slight advantage when combating enemies. Hacking plays a crucial part of the game which can give you an advantage if you know what you are doing. While hacking is quite straightforward in the game where you simply need to click a button, however, it's what you can do with hacking that's more important. We could hack turrets, drones, cars and security systems which we then use against our enemies before even stepping a foot inside a restricted area. You will need to acquire and spend tech points to upgrade abilities in order to hack enemy gadgets. These points can be acquired by completing missions or collecting them from random locations. Other in-game activities include disrupting Albion propaganda, helping civilians escape from Albion officers, and painting walls with DedSec propaganda. Although there was one mini-game or side mission that I enjoyed as it involved underground fighting rings. You would get rewarded with new potential recruits and improve your hand-to-hand combat abilities in the process as well. Now let's talk about how the game looks and performs. Ubisoft is known for making a great world design, and the city of London looks absolutely incredible in the game as well. I've been to London several times, and it was quite reassuring to see how accurate the city has been depicted in the game. It is full of real-world locations such as Piccadilly Circus, Big Ben, the London Eye, amongst many others. Many of the areas have been crafted keeping each region, its demographics and condition in mind. Ubisoft has truly created an immersive world where one really does feel like you're walking down a street in London. To keep the immersion intact, Watch Dogs Legion also utilizes weather quite accurately. If you've never been to London, you need to know that it can rain at any time of the year and sometimes multiple times in a day. London is quite gloomy most of the year, which has been well represented in the game. Having said that, there were times when the rain particle density would be higher than usual and it would impair our vision. It's a minor glitch in the game that will probably be fixed with the patch soon. While the city looks incredible, we were quite disappointed by every character model in cutscenes and in our gameplay. Faces would look like they've been made out of clay and not look realistic enough or believable. Other details such as hair, facial hair and expressions would not look pleasing to the eye in almost every scenario. This is probably because most of the characters you play with are randomly generated and have not been specifically designed like you would expect from a single player game. In fact, the only characters that look realistic are the main villains of the game, since they are the only ones who have probably been specifically designed. Now it's time for our final verdict. Watch Dogs Legion utilizes an ambitious concept with its new recruiting feature, but lacks great execution. The game is held back by its generic character development and lackluster story, however, it makes up for its shortcomings with highly enjoyable gameplay. There's a lot of fun to be had in the immersive open world setting of London, with a huge potential for the multiplayer mode that could deliver some great co-op experiences. I can see myself spending countless hours in the game only if the upcoming multiplayer mode is executed well and done right. So that was our review of Watch Dogs Legion, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching our second review on the channel, and if you'd like to see more content like this, do remember subscribing to the channel, hit like and share the video as it really helps us in growing. Until next time, over and out.